Hello, Manchester world, Hooksett world, Auburn world. Because it's Wednesday at 7 p.m., it's time for another edition of the Progress Report for going on 11 years,
We're in our 10th year.
10th year.
Yeah.
How can you believe you had that much fun?
Well,
for
actually,
10
we've
years?
completed 10. Yeah, we're in our 11th
We're in
year.
11th
We're
year.
going 11 years.
Oh my
So much
God.
fun. So much danger.
Oh,
Think
my
of all
goodness.
the danger packed into
Well,
these little hours.
You love to say that. And it's sometimes it turns out to be very true. The most dangerous hour on TV.
Oh,
And
live
60
TV.
minutes. 60 minutes. We're not, but hey, we do what we can with what we've got here, and I got a great co-host that I've been pleased to have part of this pretty much from the beginning. Although you told me one originally was another co-host, and you were a technical guy. Is that
Yeah,
right?
yeah. This was I was supposed to just be in the background. I had no intention. I've been told I have a face for radio, and I figured I'd keep my face off the camera. But 10 years later, sorry folks, here it is. You know.
Well, you've tried. You had a beard. Anyway, we're on tonight with one of our favorite guests, and that is Alderman and State Rep Pat Long. Pat fills roles at all levels of our government in New Hampshire. At the state, being a state rep, being the chairman of the Manchester delegation. At the county, being by the vice chair of the county delegation and the executive committee, which is a very important part of our governmental world here that a lot of people just don't think about, but the things that they do between the jail and the nursing home and the sheriff's office and the registry of deeds and
County
on
Attorney's
and on.
Office. We had Mike Conlon on last
And
week
the
to talk about
the
that.
attorney, the county attorney's office, all of these things. Pat is on all of it, and of course, he's been for many terms a member of the Manchester Board of Aldermen, representing
And a
Ward
school
3,
board
the down
member.
ward, and the school board, and
Charter Commission.
Charter commissions. I mean,
I have a headache already.
you know, they
We're
say,
done, Pat. We can end it right
Yeah,
here.
we're going to let you talk a lot tonight because you got a lot to talk about. But Pat exemplifies the old saying, which I think is far too much true: if you want something done, give it to a busy man. That's Pat Long. If you want something done, you give it to him because he's busy and he'll get it done. And he'll get it done timely and competently and with very careful consideration for the long-term consequences. Pat, welcome back.
Thank you. It's great to be back. Good evening, everyone.
It's really great to have you here.
Hey, Bob, before we dig into the real, important meat and potatoes, can I talk about something, some local news?
I think
Some
I'd like.
kinda
I
really
think
good
I
news.
think I know what you're going to come up with, and I'm
I
looking
think I
forward
teed
to
it up, but I really want to lead off with this because it is such good news. Actually, I don't even want to do it. Pat, how about you make the announcement because you really worked really hard to make sure that the Chandler House would be preserved here in Manchester.
I don't know the details of that.
Well,
And
there are, we don't know the details, but we can announce that an agreement has been reached. It's been reported in Manchester Inklink that
good.
so
Oh, okay.
it's
I didn't know if it
corroborated.
was
It's
public.
not behind the
Okay.
scenes stuff, but
Great.
that the Chandler House, the wonderful mansion sitting right across Beach Street from the Courier Museum, will be preserved as you
and become part of the career.
great
it will
news.
be purchased by the Courier. There are details to work out, but it will become part of their space. It will be utilized as exhibition space and event space for the Courier. And more importantly, they're committed to preserving and restoring it to its former grandeur. So that's a great thing, and that's really a feather in the cap of just the local neighborhood folks who got together,
Sure.
organized grassroots, and just kept the pressure on. So I don't know if
Yeah.
you wanted to
Yeah, we
comment
had
on that,
a-
but I think that's great news
Yeah,
for the city.
we had 80 people show up on a Sunday morning,
Right?
which blew me away. When I went there, I figured if we get 20, we're doing well, and there were
Yeah.
80.
Yeah, not to mention though the work done, in the background over the past 3 and 4 years. Remember that newspaper article that came out where they were going to sell the Chandler House for $6 or something like that. All you had to do was move it. That's when this issue really began, when
first
the public
arose, yeah.
became aware that this building was, on the chopping block. It could have come down, and Manchester has lost several magnificent structures, preserved a few too. But it would have been a shame to lose this one, and it's a real great thing for the city that these two organizations could come together to preserve it for the benefit of all of us.
Right, and a large thank you to the Manchester volunteers who organized around this. This
Yeah,
is,
it was a stunning
it
stunning
works.
demonstration.
It works.
And I don't know what this is all going to come out to, but they had actually applied for a demolition permit, which is pretty routine.
Right.
And yet they hadn't gone forward with it, and this demonstration happened. And I think probably in the accolades that should be handed out, probably some for the Bishop Labashi and Chancellor Meredith Cook for not moving forward with that when they could have.
Oh, sure. Oh,
I
sure.
mean,
Everybody.
Let's
Everybody
let's give
involved.
them some credit
And
too.
I'm sure Mayor Craig had.
And Mary
a
Craig, I
lot
sure
to
deserves a
do,
huge amount of credit.
When we thought we were about to drop the string,
Yeah.
she stepped in, and I think that.
I think she had a very big influence
I've got it
in
back
keeping the parties at the table.
Right.
Because that was always the issue during the negotiations. Things would
Sure.
warm up and then they would go cold for a long period of time. And
Yeah.
But nothing like a deadline to focus the mind, I always say. And when they applied
Yeah.
for that demolition permit, it got everybody really pinpoint focused on that. And,
Well, that is
and with a
real-
good result. With a good result.
And that is really good news for the city of Manchester. That is not just a trivial thing, but that's a major historic artifact of considerable charm and beauty, I must say, as well as reflecting history. So that's just terrific.
All right. Didn't want to take too much time, but it's good news. And in these days, good news is hard to come by. So I wanted to kind of lead off
Yep.
with that,
Yep.
hopefully.
So one of the things Pat's been doing in his many portfolios is being the principal author of getting a charter commission going to revamp the Manchester City Charter, the ordinances that govern our city. And there's a lot happening on that. It's changed a lot from what the original idea was, I think, but it's moving forward, and it's a very difficult, it's a rather complex subject, but Pat's the master of it. And I'd like to ask him to talk about it. As I understand it, Pat, originally your idea, and through the legislature, where you are an influential member for sure, you wanted to have this thing passed as a means to getting a vote on possibly giving to the Manchester School District something that the Concord School District has, which Manchester doesn't, and most cities do not, which is their own funding authority, so that they don't have to come hat in hand with the needs of the school department, the school district, or the alderman after working so hard on deciding what the needs are and the priorities are, and then let it up to the alderman to decide whether that's going to be a yay or nay vote, but they could do it themselves. And now things have changed quite a lot, but there's still going to be something on the ballot, and that's something
There
I
is.
think you should explain.
Yeah, there is. So I passed House Bill 544. It passed the legislature, the Senate, House of Representatives, and the governor signed it. So in that bill, it establishes a charter commission to amend or replace the school district charter without legislative approval, and that was the key right there, without legislative approval.
Prior
right?
to that bill, in order for we have many school districts.
Correct.
Throughout the state.
Yep.
They have charters, but those come from the old-fashioned way.
Correct.
The way all charters used to. They come directly by a bill in the legislature. It's not a mechanism in the legislature where they can change it locally.
Correct. So,
Yeah.
unlike Concord, Manchester's charter includes the school district charter. Concord had two separate charters, one for the municipality and one for the school district. Manchester's not that. The school district's charter is within the Manchester
So
charter.
it's a section of the Manchester
So-
City Charter.
Yeah, so the question that'll be going to the voters is on section 8.03, which allows the city of Manchester to change their charter without legislative approval. It has nothing to do with giving autonomy to the school district. The questions are, there's an A and B. A is already in the charter. The only difference in A is 5 words, except as set forth below, which is what is added to the charter, which is a local procedure. In my bill, the Attorney General never ruled on anything. The Attorney General interpreted what my bill was.
Issued an opinion.
By the way, they issued an opinion, and they didn't discuss it with me. Normally, legislative intent is key to a lot of this. However, they said that they believe that the House bill that passed just gave Manchester the ability to set a procedure on revising without legislative approval. So we had 3 choices. We could do nothing.
So I'd like to back off before you get to those three choices. I don't want to interrupt, but so
Yep.
there are basically two options. Your interpretation was kind of broad, that we could bring the charter change right to the voters right away.
Correct.
Their interpretation was very narrow, saying, no, first you have to decide, do the voters want to do this, and then the actual changes would come later.
Well, in the city charter, we didn't have a procedure with which to change our charter without legislative
okay,
approval.
okay.
So this 8.03 puts that procedure in.
I see.
Again, it has nothing to do with the school district's autonomy.
So it's a move to home rule for the city of Manchester.
That's correct.
Yeah, it really benefits the
if,
city.
If 8.03 passes, the city could set up a committee. They don't have to set up a charter change or a charter commission. They could set up a committee to look at revising and amending the charter. And any change in the charter must go to the voters and still must go to the voters. There was nothing that ever stopped that.
But it's going to be a two-step process. The first step is setting up the procedure, and then the second would be, I assume, within that procedure, all the work that your commission or that the charter commission did would kind of be brought to them through that procedure,
Correct.
and
So-
then make its way.
So if question number one passes, and I'm a yes, absolutely on that, to break, I don't think the city of Manchester needs the mother may I from the state. I think we're capable of processing our own revisions to our charter, what we feel is in the best interest of the city of Manchester. So if that question passes, then we have now a local procedure for which to move forward. And the city of Manchester is always under the 49B, which gives you all the criteria.
That's the
with
city
changing.
charter statute.
Correct. Municipal offices would continue to be the municipal offices of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen in the case of Manchester.
Mm-hmm.
So it would continue to stay with the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. So the Board of Mayor and Aldermen would have to set up a committee. So they'd have to agree to set up a committee to revise or amend the school district charter.
Mm-hmm.
We won't have to go to the legislature to get a change. We could do it within ourselves. So I mean, there's a lot of things in the bill that I passed that aren't coming to fruition, and like you said, if that question passes, the Board of Mayor and Aldermen needs to set up a committee. I mean, I would recommend that it be the Charter Commission. They were voted on. They did the homework for 9 months.
They've done some work on it.
Yeah.
They did the homework for 9 months. Let it be them, and so in November of 21, send those questions to the voters. So again, this question that's going to be this November is clearly only a procedure, has nothing to do with the school district's autonomy. It's a procedure with which the city of Manchester can implement, revise, and amend our charter without legislative approval.
How are you going to get the citizens to understand this?
By coming on the progress report and explaining it as well as he did.
Well,
At the
no,
start,
exactly.
isn't it?
Well, I mean, there was a lot of confusion that was made. I mean, Bob, as an attorney, I could take any statute and be a devil's advocate and give you my interpretation. You get 3 attorneys, you could get 3 different interpretations.
That's been known to happen, yes.
So Peter Chiazza talking about the Manchester School District. I could see a lawsuit. This question has nothing to do with the school district amending their charter. Nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
It's the Board of Mayor and Aldermen that have the authority to set up this committee. It's just that simple.
Yeah.
So if you think the right procedure for us is to continue going to the legislature and ask them, could you allow us to change our charter? Then you would vote no.
Well,
I don't think the legislature needs to be in our business.
So it kind of it streamlines the process for changing the Manchester City Charter for the city of Manchester only.
Correct.
You know, having achieved the size and complexity of the city that we have achieved, it might make some sense to streamline that procedure, because we have historical experience here where we have empowered charter commissions who have done extraordinary work, and yet we don't make any progress, and our charter has not been changed. So this would streamline the procedure. Does it politicize it?
Well, it doesn't. I mean, this, you know, I mean, I've heard that the Attorney General threw the bill in the trash. Yeah, I don't see that, because this is what the Attorney General recommended. They gave us the okay
To do this?
to do this procedure.
Yeah.
You know, they're, you know, you have to, any charter change, you send it to
So
the
it's being
Secretary of State.
politicized, but
Yeah, it's being
on this
politicized,
issue.
and I don't know why. It's given Manchester more of independence on their own governing.
Can
their
there be
city
a
charter.
campaign saying, for example, in the mailer or a newspaper saying, "Let New Hampshire have home rule. Let Manchester have home rule. Let Manchester make its own decisions."
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically the pitch, isn't it?
Well,
We don't
that
want to have to
exactly
go.
is the pitch.
We don't have to go with our hat in our hands up to the legislature and say, "May we do this?" We want to be able to say, "We want to be able to do this if we choose to."
That's right. And anything we want to do is not up to this committee
Yeah.
or the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. It's up to the voters.
Anything's got to
proposed
be
change
come back to the voters.
has
for-
to go to the voters.
for
So they
up
can
and
do
down
whatever
vote.
they want. If the voters vote no, it's a no.
Okay.
It's just that simple.
But the process can become more ongoing. A committee could be established after an election. Let's say a charter proposal does fail. You have some feedback from the voters now, instead of waiting 10 years. When everybody's got amnesia and starting from scratch, you can build off of what was done. You can understand where the problems were and adjust and come back very quickly with a better proposal that will pass. The
Correct.
point being that right now the process does not work in Manchester. We cannot change our charter. We can't do it. I mean, we've tried
Right.
how many times in my lifetime. We can't do it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the last time we added the tax cap.
Right.
You know, but that had to go through legislation.
Right. But
which-
that was special legislation. Again, it
which
wasn't.
passed unconstitutionally, and it had to go back to legislation.
And the Supreme
to
Court so
make it-
ruled that it was illegal as originally proposed.
So it had to go back to legislators to
Yeah.
make it constitutional.
But that's my
Exactly.
point. It was a multi-year process involving all three branches of government
Oh, that's right.
at the state
That's right.
level.
That's right.
You know, with this process, we'll be able to do it here at City Hall, and the will of the people of Manchester. We can put processes in place that will work.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So there is a process in 49B that gives you the process of charter commission changes. So this question removes the legislature. So we don't need a legislator. The Board of Mayor and Aldermen will set up a committee if they so choose, and that committee will come back with revisions. The Board of Mayor and Aldermen have to approve the question going to the ballot, and the voters will vote on
The
it.
voters have to decide.
So
ultimately.
that process is still the same.
Okay.
So what this does, you know, I mean, I also heard that we're circumventing, we're backdooring the process. That's not the case at all. What we're doing is
I don't
getting.
even understand that argument.
Yeah, I don't either. You know, what we're doing is we're getting the general court out of our charter.
That's actually front-dooring the
all-
process. You're bringing.
Yeah, exactly. We're bringing it right to Manchester. Right to Manchester.
Yeah.
Don't have to go to Concord and ask for their permission.
Okay. Well, that's good. I mean, that's a good rebound from what looked like it was going to be a real problem with this process, but it's going to take two steps instead of just one to get to the ultimate result that some of us would like to see.
Has it been approved for the
funding
ballot?
autonomy.
Or
It has been.
the
It was
aldermen have
approved.
to put it
It
on
was
the ballot?
approved
It'll be
8
on
to
the ballot.
6. Yep.
Will it be the only ballot question this year?
I believe it is the only ballot. That's the
Well, that
only one I
helps.
remember. Yeah.
You know, if there's a bunch of them, that gets
So
confusing.
vote
for
yes on
people.
one.
So vote yes on one.
Vote
Absolutely.
yes on one. Okay.
Absolutely. That'll. You know, we've always talked about cultural changes. I've heard that for 10 years with our school district. You know, we need some cultural changes. Well, you know, this is part of that change.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah,
part of
our
that
hands
change.
are tied right
Let's-
now.
Yeah, let's take the reign ourselves what the voters want, let's
Yeah.
give it to them.
Will Manchester Proud help sell this to the voters, you think?
I'm not. I know they're in favor of. I know they're in favor of
Yeah, that was in their proposal.
changing
Their
some of
funding-
the
their funding structure,
some
yeah.
of the structure. So I would think they'd be in favor of the question.
I just think, with all the furor over the election, I hope some attention gets paid to this so that
Well,
voters
there
don't
will
arrive
be,
and just think, what's this about? I don't understand it.
Patrick-
Well, we can remind folks, vote the entire ballot. I mean, that's something.
And the ballot question.
That's something that, turn it over and vote the backside too. Vote every question,
Actually,
every box.
it'll be a separate ballot.
But, we have people drop off. They vote the top 2 offices and then drop off. Folks, you got to
Oh,
vote
right.
every office.
Every
Take
office,
the time.
yeah.
Go down and vote all the way down every column.
Right. Yeah.
So let's turn to something else here, Pat. You represent the downtown.
Well, just
go ahead.
just quickly, Pat Houghton is filed a political group called the Yes Group, and he'll be doing an initiative with respect to voting yes on question number 1.
Oh, good. Glad
So
to hear that.
there is an initiative.
That's very, very helpful, yeah.
Yep.
So I just thought I'd maybe ask you, Pat, as the alderman represents the downtown part of Manchester as well as some parts that not so much downtown like up River Road, but because Ward 3 goes quite a long ways. What are things looking like as we now, into almost the fall, and we're very worried about our hospitality business in the city, and particularly with the time when people feel really, really welcome to do outdoor dining and so forth, and also how the whole how I don't know if this is part of your bailiwick, but pretty much everything is. How are things looking for the city's finances and the budget?
Well, the city's finances, we were anticipating back in April, roughly a $5 to $6 million shortfall. We ended up with a 1 point something surplus.
Oh, no kidding.
So
That's
that
surprising.
prediction didn't go down.
Where do you attribute that? What happened to turn the forecasting around?
There was they had registrations that they weren't anticipating, like fleets. Fleets are a big
no
revenue,
kidding. Yeah.
and fleets weren't working. People weren't renting cars, they weren't using them, so they weren't registering them. So they did register them prior to our due date of July 1st.
Ah, okay.
And also, there was an issue with regard to taxes. We were anticipating that we'd have a larger percentage of people that couldn't pay their tax, and of course we'd give them a leeway. But that didn't come out. Actually, this year we received another million plus
Do you
in
think?
added taxes than we had last year.
Do you
So-
think that ability to pay might have something to do with the federal stimulus and the unemployment boost
I-
that we got here in New Hampshire for a temporary period of time?
I would hope so. I would hope so. I believe that's absolutely correct because some people were furloughed.
Yeah.
Some.
And those days are
not-
coming to an end.
No, that's right. That's right. Not too many people are. I know a lot of people are still working from home, but they're getting paid. So, yeah. I mean, there is going to be with respect to the restaurants. There's going to be an issue when we get into the cold weather.
Yeah.
Because that outside seating gives them a larger capacity.
Right.
So I believe the executive order is still 50% inside restaurants.
That's my understanding.
Yeah, so I mean that just doesn't cut it.
I thought it went up to 100%, but
I
still
thought
had
so
to have
too.
you still had the 6 foot separation, which
Well,
now
how can
some
you do
people.
that?
Yeah, you can't-
What
you
what
can't do
restaurant
that.
do you know that has an extra 100% extra capacity that they can spread out?
Well,
their
right.
tables?
I mean, it may come to the same thing.
How many restaurants do you go to where you have to ask the person next to you for the salt and pepper? So
Yeah, yeah.
I mean it's just that tight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's going to be, that's going to be an issue.
Yeah.
Curbside, takeout.
Because
Delivery,
my
these-
understanding is the wintertime is their business. It's the summertime where people go on vacation that, their revenue goes down. So, whatever we need to do to get them. I mean, I know a lot of them have been successful with takeout.
But that can only give you a certain percentage of your usual revenue.
Not exactly. Well, actually,
and your employee, your staff. Do you need the full staff when you're doing nothing but takeout and curbside? You know what I mean? There are people that are. It's the individuals that are getting hit.
we had a what was it, the Pride Festival at Arms Park a couple Saturdays ago, and so we did an initiative for Cottons to have parking. That was their concern, that they wouldn't have any parking, so we blocked off parking for them. And Jeff from Cotton said that prior to COVID, he was getting 300 people Friday and Saturday nights, 300 customers. That Saturday, he had 243. So, I mean, not quite up to where he was, but that's a nice,
Pretty good crowd,
that's a
nonetheless.
that's a nice jump. But that included outside dining.
Yeah.
Right? So, once it's supposed to get warm these next couple of days, so that's okay. But as soon as the cool weather comes,
Yeah, it's coming. There's no
what
question.
do we do?
Yeah, the president was actually right about that. It is going to get cooler because winter is still part of the world.
This COVID-19 doesn't warm it up.
Pardon me?
COVID-19 doesn't warm up the climate.
Warms up the rhetoric, I guess that's about it.
Okay.
And I know, Pat, for a period there, you were also in the Board of School Committee, when you were not an alderman for a brief time, and we're glad you're back on the governing board. But how's your understanding of how things are going for our school district now that we're, into the school year?
Well, I mean, it's going. I think teachers are more prepared for remote. At the end of the last school year, it was thrown upon you. So you were just doing your own thing. I think there's a lot more accountability, which is good. But my understanding is some of these Chromebooks are short. They're working on fixing 1,000 of them. They don't have that staff, and we recently received word from FEMA that they're not going to be reimbursing. They were supposed to reimburse school districts for the cleaning, for the masks, for what have you. So we were separating
Yeah, that was like over $1 million, right?
from what the CARES Act gave us to what we were going to charge the FEMA. And then all of a sudden FEMA is not giving anything. So my understanding, it's $11 million. That's short. I mean, we got people in there cleaning constantly.
You have
we
to.
got-
You have to.
No,
It's
well,
mandatory.
Absolutely, absolutely. So
Was there rationale, or did FEMA just
I-
pull the rug out? What's the story
Yeah, I
with
didn't-
that?
I
mean,
didn't hear the
that's the
rationale.
Trump administration.
yeah, I didn't hear the rationale. I think it's absurd. I mean, why would you let that out for 3 months and then no?
I had not heard about that. That's distressing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, do we have the teachers we need in the schools as far as you know?
They do. They do. My
That's a good
understanding is they
achievement.
have enough for remote, which that was another major issue. Were we going to get enough people, enough teachers that would, show up, those that had to,
Yeah.
and or do a remote. So my understanding is, yes, they do.
What's the testing protocol in Manchester?
For the
Are they testing staff
schools?
regularly? Are they testing students, or
you know
are they
what?
just winging it?
yeah, I don't believe it's regularly, but I do believe that there are some testing because they,
Yeah.
they found, some positives.
And we're doing some
winging
in-person
it.
school.
And that's another cost.
winging it.
That's
We're
another
doing,
cost.
some, we're doing some in-person education as well, aren't we? In the lower grades. And
We are, yeah. The preschool and kindergarten and first graders, I believe,
think first grade.
are live.
how do you hear that's going?
I heard that's going well.
Good.
I heard it's going well.
Good.
You know,
Good.
not
Good.
not I mean, kids are resilient, right?
Yeah.
Hope so.
I mean, if I
Hope
gotta,
so. We're putting them in this position. I hope they're
if
resilient.
I'm a preschooler with a Superman mask,
Yeah.
I ain't taking that off. I remember Alderman O'Neill telling me my wife made him a mask, and he says, you got to make me a couple more because Daniel doesn't want to take his off. I told him we got to wash it. So yeah,
Well, I hope so. I think you
resilient
can
and
probably
compliant.
tell that I'm very, 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 very skeptical about placing people at risk, I'm very, very skeptical about what we're hearing, whether it's accurate and true, and to attempt any kind of mass meeting like this without 100% testing, I think is a fool's errand. Pardon me, with all due respect to everybody involved. If you're not testing, you're failing the people who are involved.
Right.
That's my opinion.
Right.
So another big issue we have in the city, Pat, we hear about it from a lot of people, including you, is that Manchester, because it does offer services to people with needs, whether it's addiction needs or, needs to services if you're homeless, often these are overlapping categories, obviously, is getting hit really hard with demands and having a hard time coping. And now, we've had the Canal Street encampment still there, obviously, because September's
It
turning
is.
out to be an absolutely beautiful month.
Right.
Today couldn't have been nicer, for example. But we like with the outdoor dining, we can see that coming to having to change as we get into the cold weather, which is not that far away.
Right.
How are we doing in terms of the city in responding to these crises of addiction and homelessness?
Yeah, so there's actually I'm working on a presentation that I'll give to the Committee on Public Safety and Health, which the board approved that they look at the homeless unsheltered. Homeless people are people that couch surf and also people that pay $4 to sleep on a floor in somebody's apartment. Those are homeless. The unsheltered people are the ones that are staying at public property. So we're going to look at the unsheltered, and we're going to break it down by demographics. We already know that there's a 282 number of people that were identified, and also 27% were self-reported as Manchester residents. So the rest aren't originally from Manchester. So as the state rep, the state initiative is imperative for the city of Manchester. It's not right that we're supporting the state's unsheltered population.
75% of our unsheltered population is the state's burden, and we're shouldering it.
and we're paying for that. I'll give you an example. The Continuum of Care is a group of service providers with the unsheltered. So Manchester and Nashua have their own continuum of care. Now the state has a continuum of care also, but they're not connected to Manchester and Nashua because you guys already have one. Well, I think that's foolish. We all should be working together. The fact that we have our own doesn't mean that the state doesn't get involved with us. This continuum of care
Actually, yes,
should
it
be,
does, but it shouldn't.
Exactly. And that's unfortunate.
We pay our taxes to the state too.
How many years have we heard that it's a Manchester problem?
Yeah.
Well, fortunately, we're keeping data. So when I'm at the county level and I got people from Hudson telling me, why should we be paying for that? Well, here's 6 people from Hudson that we're paying for,
Right.
right? Or Goffstown. Here's, 12 people from Goffstown that we're taking care of, So now the rhetoric is, we understand that it's not just a Manchester-Nashua issue. It's, it's a county issue. Look at the county courthouse. Right? I'm anxious to find out, evidently the commissioners, my understanding, Hillsborough County commissioners, Commissioner Pappas brought that to the discussion. So I'm anxious to get those minutes and see what was discussed.
Give us a little bit more detail. You're talking about the gathering of homeless and unsheltered people around the
Correct.
park area, around the county
around
courthouse?
the county courthouse. Evidently the property is owned by the state, is my understanding.
Right.
I don't understand how the state owns the property, but we own the building, the county building. So, so there's, there's businesses in that area that are upset, and I don't blame them. People are going to park their cars and walk through that.
But people do have a right
No, they
to
absolutely do.
walk upon public property that, we're
that's right.
all residents of the state of New Hampshire. I have a right to go sit on that park bench. They have a right to go sit on that park bench. We have to keep that in mind.
No, that's right. But we also, as taxpayers, we pay for services. So the question for me is, when they refuse the services, what do you do? So they have a right to refuse the services and shelter in your economic development area. I don't know about that.
Those are competing policies.
I explained to my wife, and I hope people don't take this the wrong way, but it's like you're home and somebody comes in and takes a poop on your coffee table. and that's okay. You gotta be okay with that. And by the way, if you don't wipe their butt, you don't have any empathy, right? So, and to me is where is that line? We're paying for these services. We want to give you a hand up. We want to do that. You're refusing it. That's okay. That's your right. But when does that stop?
In the face of your very prosaic example, I feel I have to defend my position. I'm not saying that there's no limits to what people can do on public property. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying the problem being that we have competing rights. You have the right of the citizen to not have that in the park. When I say that, I mean the residue of people living in your parks. Sure. The business owners have a right to their customers being able to have free passage without whatever intimidation comes from that, if any. But by the same token, we're Americans. Every one of us has rights, and the rights are competing right now, which is why it's been a challenge for the city of Manchester.
No, absolutely.
Every time we try
Absolutely.
something, someone's we get told
sued
you
by
can't
the
do that.
ACLU and we lose.
But that's not a bad thing. We're going to find the right answer by doing this.
No, that's right. And I agree. And we can't stop.
Yeah.
We got to keep looking for the answers. For example, at that section, there's a couple high rises. The elders need to get out and sit in those park benches. They're not going to do that.
Yeah, that's
with
part
people
of
there.
their
Right.
So they're
lifestyle.
shut in
Yeah.
with COVID, and they can't even go. They won't even go outside to sit in a bench and get some fresh air for an hour or two.
Yeah.
So when does that? When is the line crossed? Is my question. And we need a.
So these people can engage in conduct that is very, very, very unpleasant and distressing. Is there
Some
much?
of them sometimes.
Some of them sometimes, not all of them. Mostly they're just sad. But is there any real evidence? I mean, I hear people all the time saying, "Oh, I'm not going to go down and walk on the Piscataqua Rail Trail, or I'm not going to walk along the river because I'm afraid with these people." Is there much evidence that these people are actually dangerous to citizens that are in their neighborhoods?
No, again, like Mike said, it's not a majority of them.
Yeah.
It's not a majority of them, but there are some that they know their rights. They have an ACLU card
Troublesome.
that says here's what they cannot do to you.
Yeah.
So that pumps their chest up, and they work accordingly.
Yeah.
But there are some that will, stand in your way, ask you for money, not leave without you giving them money.
Yeah. Okay.
And I've watched people, because I'm thinking, the $1 and $2, very rare.
Yeah.
It's always $5, $10, and $20.
Yeah.
I've seen people
Yeah.
giving $20. A lot of people, or
Yeah.
$10.
And
right?
we had I want to bring up the street corners. I mean, all 4 traffic islands on every
Panhandle.
major, all the way up, down. It's outside of the center city now.
Sure.
It's on the off ramps to the highways. It's
Sure.
it's completely throughout the city.
Yeah.
And that I understand that there are civil rights attached to that activity as well. But it just seems to me that there should be a way to regulate. That's actually interacting with, that's kind of going from passive to active. You know what I mean?
Well, back with Chief Willard days, we tried to prohibit standing on those islands or handing off finances.
And then you
Yeah.
put up the signs.
And that was determined unconstitutional. No, they have a right to stand on that
And the
island.
signs are there, and the people just ignore them.
No, yeah,
both the people that are contributing and the people that are seeking just seem to absolutely ignore
Yeah,
them.
there's
There's not a public safety component to walking
there isn't.
around in traffic. You can't regulate that.
We can't. No, we lost. We
Oh
lost on
boy,
that.
I might become a Republican. That's crazy.
We lost. So, but again, like I said, there's you can't stop. There's
keep
times
going.
when you're
Find
going to have
another way.
to
Find
when you're going to
another
have to
way.
litigate, and the more litigation you do, the more you know what you can do.
How about public education? We tried it with those roadside signs written in half-inch letters that no one could read and no one could understand. But how about a real public information blitz? You're not helping by, you know, you want to give that $20. Here's a can, and I know they're out there, but we don't hammer that message. We don't have PSAs on WZID and you know the radio station that they run here that people listen to regularly in the morning, 101, and you know we should be hammering these PSAs. Get the public to know what the right way. You want to help the homeless. You want to solve the problem. Here's how to solve the problem.
Right.
Donate to our nonprofits.
There is an initiative, and I forget what the tag is now. But there's an MHT initiative now to contribute instead of hand it out on the streets.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I try to pay attention to everything that goes on in Manchester. I haven't even heard of that. So they're not really out there.
Yeah, I happen to see one of the signs out by the arena.
But you see my point. It's something, it's got to become a way of life. Everyone in Manchester's got to feel, I'm compassionate by not giving that dollar, but I will give it where it's needed. Not just not give it and then go home and have a beer. You know what I mean? Do both components of this.
Yeah.
And again, it's kind of like the mask thing. You know, we can save 70,000 people by wearing a mask. I'll do it. Yeah. You just had to tell me. You know what I mean? And I just really think that these messages
Public
we have to
education
hammer home.
No,
I mean, people who are giving $1 to someone on the street, they're not mean people. They're big-hearted people. They want to do the right thing. Yeah. So we just got to tell them what the right thing is.
Maybe we could convince people to give people, coupons for McDonald's or Burger King or something.
No, but that doesn't solve the problem, Bob. Thanks for diluting my message.
No, you're right. The public has to be aware of that. Because
we're all in this together.
Chief Willard logged 26 or 29 panhandlers, and within a year, 9 of them were deceased from overdoses. So I thought, what a great message. You're giving them money to kill themselves.
Yeah, that's what you're doing.
Because that's what they're using it on.
Yeah.
And again, I mean,
but
congratulations.
The thing is, you can't focus on the panhandlers. You can't make them go away, and that's the focus. We'll keep them off the median strips. We'll prevent them from putting their hand in. No, you got to focus on the donors. The donors want to give. Give them some place to give.
If I'm standing on a corner and I'm not making any money, I'm not going to that corner anymore.
Exactly.
So that's the thing. If I'm standing on a corner and I'm getting $200 for 4 hours of standing there, I'll see you tomorrow.
You'll see everybody. Rain or shine.
So that's the key. If if you can contribute that money to one of the either the shelter or there's
Families in Transition, New Horizons. There's so many organizations, so many different issue groups.
It would go a longer way. It really would go a longer way.
Yeah.
This is the first time in my life that I've actually advocated supply side.
So another thing I know that you're involved with, Pat, that's very important to our city, in addition to all these problems we've been discussing at depth. Affordable housing in this city. That's a big thing. And I think there's an affordable housing task force. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, there is. We just met this week. It's a great group of individuals, developers, planning department, Granite State Organizing Project, which has a lot of data on the current status of, there's a lot of people, a lot of families that are doubling up right now because of cost, which shouldn't have to happen, right?
Well, especially in a city like Manchester with the substandard housing we have.
Correct.
I mean, that's another whole issue that we could spend an hour on, substandard housing.
So we met this week. It was very productive. It's breaking down into 3 groups, subgroups. I'm going to be with Joe Richard, who's a developer. Actually, he's not a developer. He's a
builder.
He's an architect.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought he was a developer.
I see him at the planning board all the time. On regulations, on governmental, what is it that the government could do at the state level and at the city level to make this, make building, less onerous or red taped.
Is that really the issue, though, Pat? Seriously,
some of it is
workforce housing. Really, we're making them make better houses. We're making them make the houses more expensive.
Well, what we heard at that meeting was
We just talked
where-
about substandard housing, you know what I'm saying?
what we heard through Robert Chaney with NeighborWorks is that there's a shortage between 700 and 800 affordable units. But again, if you build affordable units, that doesn't mean that people from the outside aren't going to take those. So if we tomorrow built 800 units, we're
Might
not
not solve the
all
problem.
set because we probably got 300 people coming from wherever.
Yeah, because the problem's
Taking those-
statewide, it's not just in the city of Manchester.
Exactly.
We have a caller, it looks like we got Mark on the line.
Hey, Mark, welcome. Go right ahead with your question or comment, please.
Hi, good evening, gentlemen. That's Mark calling in. I just wanted to comment on the topic that just came up regarding affordable housing in Manchester.
Excellent.
Yep.
And the committee. So having a developer on the committee, it's almost like having the fox in the hen house because, and what I mean by that is, what I see as part of the issue here, developers have been building or renovating places that are, well, they go for high end. People just can't afford them. So that's one comment, and I'd like to hear some feedback on it. I'm going to hang up after it. And
Sure.
one more comment is, we know that the model is changing. A lot of people working remotely, and I'm sure this has come up, or maybe it's come up in the committee, that there should be some up capacity coming up here in brick and mortar. So maybe that could come into play as well. So those are my comments, and I'm looking forward to hearing your comments regarding them. And have a great night. Nice to hear you guys.
Great, thanks for the call, Mark.
Thanks for the call.
Two
Yep.
good observations.
Thanks for the call, Mark.
You know,
Yeah, I mean, his first question on a developer, we're not, statute prohibits us from requesting a developer to, can you give me, out of your 164 units you're building high-end, could you
Right.
give me 10 of them affordable housing?
Which is the complete opposite of how they do it in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, where
Absolutely.
they empower cities and towns
To say-
to make sure that they take care of their weakest.
Yeah, your 164 units, 20% will be affordable,
Yeah.
and you figure out whether
So the New
that's-
Hampshire way is different.
whether that's financially feasible,
Yeah.
But
You build it in. You build
But
it
you
into
build
your
it in,
plan.
yeah. So New Hampshire, you're not allowed to do that, which is a problem, because
didn't know that.
we have high-end, apartments going up, that, the market is calling for high rent. So as an investor, a developer, you're an investor, it's your business plan
It's a
to
profit
make
motive.
money,
That's
correct?
capitalism as we see it,
That's right, and I don't see nothing wrong with that. I believe everybody should have a right to make as much money as they can, as quick as they can.
But also, if you're going to solve the problem, you're not going to solve it without the developers.
Well,
You know what I mean? To have an
Absolutely.
organization that excluded developers to come up with some sort of a
Well,
plan and then.
I mean, if you exclude anybody, once you come formulate your plan, there's a group that you excluded that's not happy with
Not
you,
on board, yeah,
not on board, and that's not good. So you need everybody
yeah.
to get involved. And actually, at this meeting, developers had some great ideas. So, they know the numbers. I don't know the numbers. I don't know. It's 160,000. My understanding is for a unit, a new build. So looking at affordable housing is what is it? 60% of medium income. At 160,000 a unit, building new, the finances aren't there.
Yeah.
But
So
how
how
about
do you fill that?
What was his second question? He wanted.
Yeah, I didn't get that second question.
Yeah. Well, we can talk to Eddie.
Well, I'm going to try to remember the second question, but we'll pull Eddie in to see what he has to say. Eddie, welcome to the show, brother.
Hi, Eddie. Welcome back.
Hey, real quick question. Great topic, by the way. Real quick and brief. What is the answer? How do you create affordable housing? What's the answer? That's all, and I'll listen for your answer. Thank you.
So how do you create it? Is there is public money federally and statewide. Is it enough? I don't know. And it takes a developer knowing that his profit margin isn't going to be where his book of business tells him it should be at. that's what you're going to have.
So that's where the regulation issue comes in. You may have to tweak some of your life safety codes, maybe not, but some of your requirements.
Yeah.
As far as your specifications and standards, you might have to allow more inexpensive materials. You might have to make these you might have to allow for smaller accommodations. You might have to allow for smaller footprints. I mean, all of these, space and
Cut
height
down on your
requirements.
green requirements.
There are some communities that are allowing those small those little
Miniatures.
mini buildings,
Tiny homes.
tiny homes
Tiny
on
houses,
your
yeah.
property. So you could put a tiny home on your property and charge rent.
Yeah.
And they're doing it without having to go to planning. Planning or zoning is a high cost. You got to give them 8 copies of your print.
Yeah.
That's a high cost. So there are some things we could do within a municipality that'll help cost factors, not nearly enough to make it more profitable for developers to build affordable housing. But there are avenues with which a developer teaming up with NeighborWorks, for example. I'll tell you what, I'll do, we're going to do 80 units, I'll do 50, you do 40 affordable. Or 30 affordable.
I have an example of this that I worked on personally. I worked on a very high-end development in East Boston, and you can see it. It's right on the corner of East Boston with views of downtown Boston, top-of-the-line residential development. And what they did in order to meet the city of Boston's affordable housing requirements is they built down the street another building. Took a warehouse, converted it to affordable housing using the smaller requirements for the apartments. That way, they were able to market this building as completely high-end, 100% high-end, and still meet the neighborhood's requirement for affordable housing. Eddie called, asked, what's the solution? Like we're a bunch of city planners and we have the solution in our pocket. We don't, but there are examples out there. And you can't stop looking. As you said, you don't give up on the problem just because you get slapped
exactly.
down on your first
Well,
attempt.
there is a solution. It's just a matter of digging and finding it.
Yeah.
So, there are city money through the feds, housing funds that could be used. There's also state funding and there's also federal funding. So, I don't know how much is that. I don't know if accessing all of that.
And you're looking
helps
at
the
that.
developer.
But how about raising the minimum wage? That makes more housing affordable. There are a lot of policies in this state that can be changed that can affect the affordability of housing. You raise the minimum wage to $15, all of a sudden, a lot more people can afford a lot more house.
Yeah, I'm scrambling now with constituents, throughout the city of Manchester that are calling me up, losing their $900 to $1,000 a month rent because somebody bought it and they're going to renovate it and they're going to get $1,500 for it and they can't afford the $1,500. So I'm scrambling, looking for. We just passed at the Board of Mayor and Alderman level the ADUs, development units, dwelling units. I can't think of the A.
Can't think of it either.
But it's the ADUs where you could do it attached by the state. You don't need to go to planning. That's an automatic. Now we just approved detached. So, and that's going to help because, but again, if I own my home and I put one of these in there and I could get $1,300, I'm not going to say, $1,100. Stay within the affordable rate of, $1,000 to $1,100. Again, as an homeowner, this is my property. I'm putting up with this. This is what I could get. I want to get that.
Yeah.
So.
This is going to be a really acute problem in the city of Manchester, isn't it?
Yeah, but we're working steadily on this task force that we're gonna submit results in 3 months,
Okay.
which is very aggressive, and I
Yeah.
love that it's not gonna take a year or 6 months or
Well, that's
let's-
really good for
What do
you,
we got?
yeah.
What do we need?
Well, you got the people, you got the expertise at the
No,
table. Let's
it's-
dump it on
it's-
paper
yeah,
and
the
get
mayor
it out
put
there.
The mayor put together a great group.
Yeah.
I was just highly impressed with the
So,
knowledge on there.
We're just about at the end here, Pat. It's been fascinating as always because you're involved in working so hard on so many important things. But Let's just look a little ahead toward the election. I know you were meeting with a committee to elect House Democrats just where you came here. And,
That's right, yeah.
And
This
you're
morning.
running again.
Real
And,
excited.
you know, we've had very
Bob,
strong.
you sound so wistful when you say that.
Oh, I am wistful, believe me. I am
Well, we have
very wistful.
394 reps
That are going to win?
that are, yeah, so it'll be 394 Dems to 6 Republicans. in the next,
How do you think it looks in the city of Manchester?
I think Manchester looks well. I don't.
Good candidates?
I don't see. I was looking at the numbers in the primary. There's
Yeah.
a couple of areas that were close within 100,
Yeah.
but I don't see. I mean, you always hear how Republicans don't come out in the primary. I'm not buying that.
Yeah.
Because every time that's said, I look at the general, and it's the same number.
It's
that
the
came
numbers
out.
the same, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
So it's not a. There were a couple races that were within 100, and that leaves me with some concern.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping Democrats come out more.
Yeah.
Certainly
More
motivated,
registered.
but
I mean, there absolutely is a push. I mean, the young
everybody's
people
motivated,
are.
you know?
I mean, the young people are just. I love the fact that they're involved.
Yeah.
And they ought to be involved.
They should be,
I'm going to
yeah.
be gone, and you're going to be in.
Yeah.
So
That's
get
gonna-
involved
that's-
now,
that's
so
gonna be
you
happening right
know the
away.
process by the time you're ready to jump in.
Well, I hope you're not going to be gone for a long time because
So
nobody's indispensable, but you're very important to the public welfare of this city and county and the state. So thank you for joining us. It's
Thank
been
you.
really
My
terrific to have
pleasure.
you back. It's always really really informative when you're here, and we love what you do. And so that's, I guess, this show.
It is.
Always a pleasure to have you sitting next to me, Mr.
Another
Farley.
hour in the book.
We will be back next week. You'll be here next week.
I will
too.
be here next week.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, folks, enjoy this beautiful, beautiful September day. I tempted to sing September song, but I'll spare you. But what a sweet,
Give me a
beautiful
head
day.
start out of here, will you?
Yeah, I'll give you a head start out of here. All right, folks. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to our callers.
See you next
We
week,
appreciate
folks.
it. Take care.